Hello again and welcome back to another Warhammer 40k video. So today's video is going to be something a little bit different. It's not going to be a tactics video or a loadout video, or obviously it's not going to be a battle report. It's just going to be an update on one of the other projects I've got going on other than Imperial Guard, which is my Tempest of Scions. So about a month ago, maybe a little bit more, I put up a video saying I'm going to start collecting Scions, and this was done for two reasons. I decided to do this project for two reasons. One was I had done some theory hammer videos on Tempest of Scions, on what loadouts I think I would be good, review of some of their formations, and had received an overwhelmingly positive response. And I realised that there was very, very little Scion content out there. And when I went and looked at what other YouTubers were putting out there and other advice that was around on the internet, either it was just bad. So, for example, I just saw completely wonky Scion armies that were losing every game, and for good reason. Or, for example, the articles that I would read would all be from 2014. They'd be several years out of date, and what they were saying wouldn't necessarily tie in with what we see in current 40k. So I decided to go out there, answer the call, and do my bit. So this video, sorry for a bit of a long introduction, but this video is just an update. Where I am, what I've got so far, and I've played two recent test games with the Scions and what I've learned from them. So starting off, where am I up to with the Scions? What have I got my hands on so far? Well, I have got built and painted two Taurox Primes. Both at the moment are configured for being Dakar Primes, so Taurox Gatling Cannon and Hotshot Volley Guns. I can mix those loadouts out. I've built them so I can mix them up. One of them's glued in because I just wanted to see what it looked like. The other one I can mix up and make a Punchy Prime or a Dakar Prime. And then I've got 4 squads, two command squads, 2 regular squads. The 2 command squads, one of them is 4 times melter guns, one of them is 4 times plasma guns. And the 2 basic squads, one is 2 times volley gun and the other one is 2 times flamer. So that's the loadout I've gone for. And all the sergeants have got bolt pistols. Okay, that's fully built and painted. What I've got in the works, what I've literally got sat in front of me right now, is another 10 Scions. And I've got another 2 melter guns, another 2 plasma guns, another 2 flamers, and then the 2 sergeants with bolt pistol and no, just close combat weapons, no special weapons, and 2 lasgun guys as well, just two regular guys, and I've got a Taurox Prime on the sprue. Those are built and undercoated. Taurox Prime still on the sprue. So that's what I've got so far. So you can see, I am working towards this project, but I don't like to really play in general with unpainted models, and I don't like using unpainted models in the battle reports. And obviously when I try and put battle reports out, I try and make sure at least about 95% of the models are painted. There's obviously, try not to go on a tangent here, obviously there's a few times when people's models break in transit, or they're just a little bit old and the paint's scratched off, and that happens to my models too, or a little bit, that's fine. Obviously, ideally, I'd want them all to be 100% perfect, but I can understand when some little bits of chips there. And obviously, when I had the Guard versus Chaos battle report, there was a lot of really, really cool conversions in that army, which had been base coated but not fully painted, but the conversions were so cool that I felt I could get away without the models being fully painted. And the response from the community as well was, wow, those Chaos Sorcerers look fucking incredible. So, but anyway, without digressing, obviously you guys, the reason I haven't, why I'm saying this, I should say, is the reason I haven't put any Scion battle reports out, despite the fact that I've had a couple of games with Scions as part of my army, is because they're not fully painted yet, and So I'll put out some battle reports when, you know, be they low points, sort of 400 points, up to 1,000 points, when I've got that level painted up. Okay. So that's where I am with the armies so far, though. About 30 Scions, 3 Torx Primes. So yeah, going over the 2 games that I played, just with them, and how the Scions have performed in both. So both games I've played in have been 1,500 points aside. First game I'll cover, and then I'll cover the second game. First game, I took Imperial Guard with an allied Scion CAD, so 2 CADs. And my opponent had a Skitarii CAD and a Blood Angels CAD. Okay. It was actually a 2 versus 1. They both had 750 points, but that's just because we had 3 players and we wanted to play. So my Guard army, very quick. Their army was, you know, mix of Vanguard. I think it was 3 squads of Vanguard and a Dune Crawler and a Ranger squad. And the Blood Angels was lots of units in drop pods, lots of drop pods. My army was, to give you a brief overview, 3 blobs, 1 conscript, 1 regular, 1 regular. I had 2 wood chipper exterminators, and then I had Yarrick, and then I had my just 4 Scion squads, my 2 command squads, my 2 regular squads. My Hotshot Volley Gun squad, they didn't deep strike. The other 3 squads did. Now, I'm not going to go turn by turn, blow by blow. It was an objective. It was a four objectives game, and I won in the end because I controlled 2 objectives, and my opponent only controlled 1. And the reason for this was my ground forces, my Imperial Guard, they pushed up aggressively. And in response, my opponents dropped down a lot of their stuff to counter my Imperial Guard. My conscripts obviously took heavy damage, blah, blah, blah. So whilst there was a big central brawl going on between my sort of, I think, 120 infantry and 2 tanks and my opponent's, you know, waves of Skitarii and Blood Angels, whilst that big brawl was going on, my Stormtroopers dropped down, and I put the Melter Squad versus a Dune Crawler, and there's also a Dragoon there as well. And my Plasma Squad against a 10-man Tactical Squad. I think it had been whittled down to about 7 people at this point. And then my Flamer Squad didn't come in until the next turn. But those first 2 squads came down. And turn 1, I blew up the Honor Guard Dune Crawler. Turn 2, when they were down, they blew up the Dragoon. So really good. They just bam, bam. Took out. That was all the armor that my opponent had. The rest of it was drop pods and stuff like that. So they just annihilated that. Just came down, Alpha Strike, bam. Plasma Squad came down, annihilated the Tactical Squad, completely annihilated. I just used the twin linking order that the Scions have. I don't know what the other orders actually are. I just know the twin linking order, and I like it. Okay. And so I just wiped out what my opponents had in their backfield that they were using to defend one of their objectives. Now they then dedicated about 25% of their remaining forces to wipe out those first 2 squads. Okay. And my Flamer Stormers came down the turn after and actually managed to clear off. They kept up the pressure. They cleared off one of my opponent's units that he'd sent to hold the objective. And then again, my opponent had to dedicate more of his force that should have been attacking on my front line to clearing the Scions off. So my Scions came down. They smashed the entire area. They killed anything with more than 2 legs. Sorry, Starship Troopers quote. But they came down, they smashed the entire area, secured the objective. Now, they didn't get to keep the objective, but they forced my opponent to dedicate shots that would have been that would have been used to try and break through my lines, to wipe out the Scions, and they didn't have enough units to go back. And it was too far away to go back and claim the objective anyway. And then I was able to hold on to my 2 home objectives. So it was really, they came in, they were suicide squads, but they came in, opened up a new front, smashed, created a big fucking, we're here, we're mean, we're green, we're gonna fuck you in the ass situation. Big sign over their head saying Scion's ho. And my opponent was so terrified at the fact of having double tapping plasma in his back line, 4 melter guns in his back line that were just tearing him to pieces, that I wouldn't say that they panicked, but they definitely had to redirect significant firepower. This meant there was that just that bit less firepower going towards my frontline infantry. And my frontline infantry, first rank fire, second rank fire, came in, swept through, just destroyed what units my opponent were putting onto my, because his forces were split at that point, and it worked really well. Now, none of the Scions survived. None of them survived. Not even the volley gun squad. They all died. But they were basically using a suicide distraction capacity. The old tactic distraction Carnifex, I used distraction Scions, and it worked well. But I was left feeling a little bit, and I enjoyed the game, but I was left feeling a little bit like, because whilst the Scions were very effective at what they did, it did kind of feel like, well, they haven't, they sort of just came down and all died, which, and I kind of want more than that from my Scions. I don't just want them to come down and die. I want them, and maybe I'm asking too much from them because they're not Space Marines, but I want to come down, this is what I was thinking afterwards, smash the entire area, hold on to it, and be able to have the physical capability to be able to go to my opponent, bring it. You want this objective back, you're going to have to work for it. So that was game one, very good. But so I learned that Scions are very effective drop suicide squads. We already knew that, but that's been confirmed now. I'll go on to overall lessons learned after the second game. So second game, 1500 points. I decided to use my Scions allied with my Arbites. So it's about my opponent's army was again. This time it was Skitarii again, but my opponent went for, it was Relic in the centre, and my opponent it was Skitarii and Blood Angels, and it was actually a 3-way game. This game, actually, I should say, but it didn't matter too much. The logistics of it basically came down to there was one Relic in the centre. We were all going for it. And the first few turns of the game were a mad sort of brawl, a bash, like everything was going crazy. But my Arbites got swept aside slightly. Combat shotguns, light scout squads in combat shotguns and speeders, they struggled to roll with the punches in the big brawler games. And one of my opponents was using like Razorbacks with tactical squads in it. There was some Death Company. There was a Storm Raven with Assault Squad and some Terminators. So that was the Blood Angels opponent, and the other opponent was Skitarii and Iron Hands, and he had lots of tactical squads. So there's lots. So the ins and outs of the army of my opponent's army aren't too important. What's important to remember is there was a lot of power armor. Okay, so my army was my 3 squads of scouts, shotguns, power maul, land speeder storm, 2 squads of scout bikes, 3 grenade launchers, 1 with a librarian with force maul, my interrogator judge, 2 storm talons, both with assault cannon and las cannon, and then the Scion detachment was 2 Torx primes and the same 4 squads as last time. So this time what I did was I used my plasma squad in a Torx prime and my volley gun squad in a Torx prime, and I deep struck the melter and the flamer. So the first 3 turns, I'll try and keep it fairly broad brush at this point because it was a 3-player game. First 3 turns were pretty crazy. People were attacking everybody, but after the first craziness of the first 3 turns, everything settled down a little bit. Everyone was starting to make their way onto the objective. My turn, and what I actually was able to do was I was able to use my Scions. They pushed, they drove forward. My initial reaction with the Torx Primes was to gun it forward and get straight into the heart of the battle, but I played it a bit more tactically than that. I used them, I drove them forward at a reasonable pace, but laid down absolutely withering firepower. My Torx Primes moved forward with the guys inside with the hotshot volley guns being able to shoot out, and the hotshot volley gun on the Torx Prime. That's 12 shots from the hotshot volley guns, 4 of which are twin linked, and then I had the Gatling cannon on top. We're talking 22 shots from one Torx Prime. That thing was wasting tactical squads in and out. It was insane. The double tapping plasma one, or the plasma one in general, is doing similar. You know, you've got the 14 shots from the Torx Prime, plus the between 4 and 8 shots from the plasma. Really, really effective combo. So I learned a little bit last time, because my plasma squad, when it dropped in, it was killed instantly, and I didn't like that because it's a very expensive squad. It's 145 points. So I learnt, and I found it very effective to put plasma squads in the Torx Primes. They can do well in there, and they have, it just works well in the Torx Prime. It just does. They've got the range, the 24 range, to take advantage. They can move around, they can get out, they can double tap. It works. Okay. The Melter Squad, again, dropped down, killed Dune Crawler and Dune Crawler. That's all they killed this time. Then they started assaulting the way up to the objective. Now and the Flamer Squad came down and started just burning tacticals. Turn 4 and 5, everyone's just mashing on the relic. And what my Scions, it was so cool. I wish I'd made a battle report out of it. My Scions, they dropped down, and they spent the first couple of first 3-4 turns pouring firepower onto the centre, but not making a mad dash for it. But then it came to turn 4, and what was holding the relic on turn 4 and 5 was 5 assault terminators with storm shields and thunderhammers with a sanguinary priest, a Furioso dreadnought, and 10 assault marines with a captain. What I assaulted that position with was 4 melter gun Scions, 4 plasma gun Scions, volley gun Scions, and flamer Scions, and a Torx Prime. 2 Torx Primes. My Arbites had died. They'd been the first wave. They'd been involved, but they died. The Scions came in, and every single, just trying to not waffle too much, every single unit supported each other. I didn't get fantastic dice rolls. I got perfectly average dice rolls. Okay, maybe a little bit below average. The melter guns went into the Terminators, took them down over turns 4 and 5. Because I was twin linking the melter guns. And they can only make so many 3-up for invalid saves, and they weren't getting their feel no pain, and there's only 5 of them. So I think turns 4 and 5, and I took out all but 1 Terminator. And the Terminators were coming in, and they smashed one squad, they smashed another squad. And then the Assault Marines came in, they smashed one of my squads, but they were quite unlucky, they didn't kill it. And my Flamer Stormies went down, and my Plasma Stormies went down after just rinsing, so many wounds on the Assault Squad from double tapping Plasma and Flamers. The Assault Squads came in with only like 3 guys left, including the captain. Came in, they multi-charged, they cleared off the Plasma Squad and 2 guys from the Volley Gun Squad. And the Furioso Dreadnought was taken down by the Melter Guns as well, I should say. Melter Guns took the Furioso down as well. Yeah, turn 1, Furioso. Oh, turn 4, Furioso. Turn 5, Terminators. Turn 6, Terminators. Plasma Guns, they did a number on the Tactical Squad, then got taken out by the Terminators. The Flamer Squad did a number on the Tactical Squad, but got taken out by the Terminators. And so what it came down to was my Melter Gun Squad was still at full strength, and my Scions and my Volley Gun Squad, and they were fighting to this ruin. It was in the centre of this big ruin, fighting to this relic. And I just went in there, and just cleared them out bit by bit. That's what I'm trying to get across to you. Sorry, long story. Apologies. But it was so cool, and I'm not doing the story justice. But essentially what happened was, it was 20 Scions versus 17 Marines. 5 of them were Terminators, one and a Furioso, and the Scions won. Scions came out of it with 7 guys left. Spaceman said nothing, not a single guy, and it was just so cool because every unit supported each other. The melter guns had their job, and I'm leading something here now, so I'm leading something. The melter guns supported. They took down the tough dreadnought. If that dreadnought had been able to rampage through my lines, end of. You know, so they took down that. They were screened by the Flamer squad that helped, you know, put on the wounds on the tactical squad. And the Flamer squads were just putting templates everywhere. And the Terminator. The Terminator to spend a turn wasting the Flamer squad. Then they to spend a turn wasting the Plasma squad. The tactical Marines were, you know, the Assault Marines were brought down by, you know, Torx Prime, volley gunfire, and Plasma. But everything had a job. And it was so, this is what I'm leading to here now. Every part of that offensive, nothing was spammed, and every part achieved its job. It had one job to do, and I gave them one job, and they completed it. But because each part of the army worked, and the plan was executed perfectly, my opponent was completely destroyed. And that is the number one lesson that I learned from both of those games. Scions can be deployed as either a suicide unit, and they can be at the forefront of a main offensive to take the relic or take any objective. But the way both Scions worked, and the reason I had so much success with them in both games was because they had a plan. This is something I've never really done before, because I've never really been an elite infantry commander before. But they had a plan. I had a plan. Me, the commander, had a plan, and I executed it perfectly. I didn't take any risks. I just said, "This is what I'm going to do," and then the Scions made it happen. I think that is the key to winning with Scions. Okay, if you throw them in there as like a reactionary force, if you go, "Shit, my flank's getting taken out," and you throw in a couple of squads of Scions, they're going to die, and they're going to disappoint you. And I think you have to build your army from the ground up. You can't take this generalist approach of, "Oh, I'll take a little bit of this, a little bit of that." No, you've got to go, "I'm taking this Scion Melter Command Squad. Its one job in my entire army is to blow up a vehicle. I'm going to make sure it does that. One way or another, it's going to blow up a vehicle." And every part works together. And when it does work, and when you just get average dice rolls, because I scattered the average amount, everything just went statistically normal, and my opponents were crushed. Both games, it was a crushing victory in my favour. And both games, I can directly contribute or directly point to the Scions and say, they made the difference. They made the difference. So, I know that's a bit of a long story that I went on about, and I know it was twisted around, but I was sort of reliving it in my head then, and I was going through the cool moments of these Scions. Literally, there's this big ruin, relic in the centre. Scions were pointing guns through windows, firing in. Spacemen's desperately trying to hold on to the relic, trying to retreat it. Scions not letting up, not giving up the pressure, going. Squad getting taken down. And it was the same in the first game. Scions dropping in, melter gunning one thing, melter gunning another thing, tactical retreat onto the objective, getting blown away. Next wave, come in, flames, make sure one way or another you ain't getting this objective. I may not hold it, but you ain't holding it. Both times I had a distinct plan, and the Scions were able to execute it. And that is the key to victory with Scions. I'm going to be releasing some more updates, but this is the first sort of eye-opening moment I've had. Because I had this game at the weekend. It was not a long time ago. I actually recorded this video once already and had to redo it because the sound was completely off. But this was about 4 days ago. I had this battle, and the week ago for the other battle, I have had 2 games, 2 weekends in a row, both with Scions, and so it's fresh in my head. And this is the first. There's a lot of, I did a lot of theory hammer, but this is the first time my eyes are open. I'm having these light bulb moments. This is how you win with Scions. You specialize the squads. You give them a purpose. Individually, they are weak, but when brought together to support each other, and you execute a plan, you think, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I need to do to achieve it, and you go in and you do it, and you play perfectly tactically, and you cut the head off the snake, and you absolutely decimate your opponent. Really, but I would say I was using in that second game, I was using a fluffy Arbites list with some Scions. And I won. I basically, not boasting, but I basically 2v1'd. And a big part of that was thanks to the Scions. Big part of it. So there you go. Don't want to go on about that anymore. One last thing I was going to say. This is a general comment about Scions. Something else that, not from my point of view that I realised it, but my opponents realised it. They said, those Scions, they may be weak. They're only toughness 3, but you can concentrate so much firepower in such a small area because you basically haven't got any filler weapons. They put out, when you take a 5-man squad, you've got 4 special weapons in it, for example. There's no wastage. Where everyone else takes, a 5-man squad of tactical marines and has a special weapon in there, you've really got 4 wasted guns there, 4 basic bolters. Scions don't have that. Scions don't have a basic weapon. The hotshot lads, you will have less hotshot lads guns in your army, or you should have less hotshot lads guns in your army than you have special weapons. That's how Scions work. You take an extreme amount of firepower and like a scalpel you apply it to a specific area, and it's absolutely overwhelming. I honestly think that more so than Space Marines, okay, more so than Eldar, more so than many. I'm not saying this is amazing. I'm not saying Scions are, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Scions are suddenly take them to tournaments you're going to win every game. No, they haven't got ways to ignore cover. They haven't got ways to deal with, Wraith Knights and stuff like that. That's where they'll struggle. But what Scions can do, I would say, better than almost any other codex out there, is they can apply force concentration better than any other force. You can with the fast vehicles that you have, the deep striking capabilities that you have, the horrendous levels of special weapons that you have, you can say, I need to take this bit of this army apart here, and I'm going to apply the exact amount of force that I need to do that. And then you do, and then you win. No other army can do that. Guard, I love my Guard, but Guard is a sledgehammer. Guard is, I have 80 men here in 2 platoons, and then I have another 80 men in 2 other platoons, and my opponent has 2 objectives. I'm going to send 80 men at one objective and 80 men at the other objective, and there's no skill, because obviously there is, but it's just bludgeoning. About 20 of those men will make it. I'll lose about 100 dudes to 120 dudes to get to the objectives, but I won, and my opponent died. And that's how Guard does it. And Scions, that's a lack of force of concentration. That's just bleh, a big wave. Bleh. There's no force concentration. You're just everywhere. That's force, not necessarily dilution, but saturation. Guard, this is what I'm going to sign off on, right? Scions do force concentration. They apply the correct tools to a specific area. Guard is force saturation. They apply tools everywhere, and some of them will be wasted. Some of them you might not use half the special weapons in your army effectively, but the other half will be used effectively, and because you've got so many, you just saturate in the battlefield in bodies and men and equipment that you overwhelm your enemy. And that's the two key differences between the two forces. And I'm not saying that one's better than the other, but right now I'm really, really enjoying Scions, and an army that I thought I would struggle with, I'm actually doing quite well with. So look forward to seeing some more battle reports with them. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you found this useful. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.